I'd like to call to order this meeting of the WPCA at Town Hall on Tuesday, October 14th. In lieu of Mr. Secretary not being present, I guess I'll take the roll. Or here.
I'll do
All
it.
right, thank you.
I think I can help. Elsa Payne, Chairman.
Present.
Ian Featherstone, Vice Chairman present. George D. Quiz, Secretary is absent. Chuck Worley.
Present.
John F. Clappy Jr.
Present.
Jason Becker.
Present.
Robert Missel. Absent. Peter Stelman. Absent. Robert Sanger.
Here.
Okay. Because of the absences, Mr. Sanger will be seated. If we stand for the pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any comments from any of the members here tonight?
I have a comment.
Yes.
I'll read this comment because I want to get it right. About a year ago, a group of Saybrook residents met with Carl Fortuna to discuss ongoing issues with the WPCA. Those people attending that meeting were myself, Bob Singer, Barry Moore, Barry O'Neill, and Rick Swan. On Friday, October 10th, Carl invited those same four residents to a meeting in the conference room here, actually, to give us an update on the issues that we discussed at the last meeting, but mostly he wanted to talk about soft costs. Carl laid out a plan to us that he is considering. His time frame for completion is the end of the budgeting process for next fiscal year. The plan as laid out to us would cover all of phase one and was certainly acceptable to us as residents. As a board member, I would like the board to have an open discussion on this when the time comes, not necessarily now. I certainly would like to take a closer look at the numbers and the plan detail. I'd also like to make sure that homeowners are protected from future assessments having nothing to do with their properties. And the last thing is kind of important. This plan for phase one might not be sustainable for phase 2 and 3. So the board really needs to look at equitable ways of sharing future costs. Principally engineering was the biggest part of our discussion. So those are my comments. I have a written copy if you want it for the secretary. Whoever's,
Yeah, I'll give it to Melissa.
okay.
That's great, thank you.
And those are my comments.
Any others? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of September 22nd?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion or comments on the minutes? Are you ready for them? Okay,
I'm just checking to see if I made any notes, that's all.
okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Aye.
All right, we'll move on to staff reports, starting with financial.
You have the operating budget report for September 2014. Do you have any questions or comments?
Do I have a motion to accept this report?
I'll make the motion, we accept the WPCA budget operating report dated 10/2/2014.
Second.
Okay.
Is there anything out of the ordinary? Any problems that you
No.
see coming?
So far, so good.
Anyone else? Care to comment? No? Okay, yes.
I just wanted to point out for the construction costs,
Oh, we're not on that yet.
Okay.
Oh, we're just, yeah, when we get to it.
Okay.
All right. All of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Okay, next up is, I passed out the Clean Water Fund Summary Report through requisition 43.
And this is for information only.
Information only. 44 has been submitted. 45 will be our last requisition for phase 1. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since we've done a caveat. But what the caveat is a document that is put on the town records showing that, showing the owner and the street address of property that have opted into the Clean Water Fund program. And this is for Ingham Hill and Meadowwood. And it is signed by the chairman. So we need, why don't you pass that around? It's just a list. We've done it for everything else, but I think the last one we did, Fenwood, was more than a year ago.
It's the same format, it's just
It's the
different.
same format, this is Ingham Hill and Meadowwood.
Can I have a motion to authorize the chairman to sign this document?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to authorize the chairman to sign the caveat presented by Gracia Lewis this evening.
Second.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I was looking at some old notes, and were there some corrections that had to be done to the previous ones that you were kind of holding off until we were done with phase 1?
Okay.
Well,
The,
think about it. You don't have to
the
answer it
short,
right now.
no, the short answer is yes, there were a handful of properties, they have been corrected.
Oh, okay. 'Cause I don't
And I'm
remember
trying
you
to
signing
remember why. They were,
ins and
they may
outs.
have been emergencies that were added in, after the, that's, yes, okay, they're emergencies that were outside the district or outside the focus area of the contract. And they had to sign that they wanted clean water funds, so therefore it had to be put. Thank you. Yes, the answer is yes. But they,
But that hasn't been done yet.
I will have to check.
Okay,
I
all
will have
right,
to
just
check
a
on that.
reminder, I had some old notes that said we had, that was an outstanding issue.
That it may have been done.
Okay,
I will check on it.
thank you.
So the caveat is going to be filed on the records, on the individual records,
Yes?
and we did that before.
Yes. For every property that's been done.
signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Abstain.
Is this the copy you want me to sign?
That would be helpful.
Okay.
While she's doing that, we are on to invoices. For the non-construction invoices, we have Fuss and O'Neill's final invoices for phase one. I sent them out to you. I hope the breakdown of the phase two mapping final is helpful to you to understand how we got to that number. They have in fact completed the property lines and the field edits for all the properties. They've been going gangbusters, and so this is the budget. This completes the budget that they were allowed for the phase two mapping, which is an amendment 11, 12, and 13.
Okay, so just so, can I ask questions now?
Let's have a motion.
Okay, well, I have the motion, you're right, thanks.
Okay, do I have a motion to pay the non-construction invoices from Fuss and O'Neill, please?
Oh, we need to give the amount, I'm sorry.
Okay.
$112,650.80.
Okay, can I have that motion, please?
I'll make a motion that we pay the invoices, the two invoices to Fuss and O'Neill in the amount of $112,650.80.
Second.
All right.
Okay, now, question. So if I'm understanding this right, the mapping is going to be charged off to phase one?
Yes.
Okay. Even though it was done for phase two?
Amendment 11, 12, and 13 were developed and approved by DEEP to allow this work, which is phase two, to be done utilizing phase one money.
Okay. So, okay, that's what my question was.
Anyone else? Any comment?
You have one second.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Okay, construction invoices. I'd like to start with a little housekeeping. We're closing up contracts and paying retainage. We have the final retainage for Oyster River East 3, which goes to Olmsted for $4,753.32. We have final retainage for Saybrook Acres 2 in the amount of $5,140.57. And we have an invoice, which I probably put in with KTR, for $1,600. Steve, you want to explain about the lawn restoration issue with, while I dig for the check?
With regard to a particular.
Southview Terrace, the lawn restoration that JTR did.
Oh, we had contacted Cal Caldarella, who did that original work, or we tried to contact him, and he did not respond. And Jim Dinoli, our site manager, went out and looked at it. I thought there was a legitimate request with regard to a restoration issue.
That was NBC.
Yes.
Yeah,
NBC.
yeah, since we had the retainage, we notified Cal that we were gonna move ahead to have another contractor do that work to satisfy the issue. And we did not, we gave him every opportunity to respond and notified him, and he never responded. So we did the work, took it out of that retainage that we had, and he's getting the balance. That was the only one. That was the only one, Gracia. right,
Yes,
with regard to the
that was the only one. We had previously had meetings regarding Saybrook Acres 2 way back when. And a series of adjustments had been made at that time. And this was the last unfinished piece of business, which kind of propped up a bit late.
Can I get a motion to pay the construction invoices?
Do you want them all together, or do you want just them broken into pieces?
What,
What's your preference?
Altogether is good.
altogether?
Well, did we get all these,
No, we have to move on to Fenwood 1 and Fenwood 2. I might suggest that perhaps we would approve these retainage and lawn restoration
Okay.
Invoices, and then we would move on to Fenwood 1, treat that separately, and Fenwood 2, treat that separately.
Okay.
so we need a total.
All right, I'll make a motion that we approve the 3 invoices, one for JTR in the amount of $1,600, one for MDC Corp, the amount of $5,140.57, and one for Olmsted Contracting in the amount of $4,753.32.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
We definitely took out the $1,600 is definitely deducted.
Yes, if you
from
look at,
MDC,
if you
right?
look at the paperwork, excuse me, behind the final retainage
Okay.
invoice,
Got it, it's right there. Okay.
I've
okay?
got a total of $11,493.89.
That's what I got.
Anyone else? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Okay. Fenwood 1, JTR LLC, we have 10 invoices, totaling $43,814. And if you want to talk about Fenwood 1?
Yeah, well, I'll cover it in my report.
Oh, okay.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I will make a motion that we pay the JTR invoices totaling $117,000.
No, 43,000.
Oh, 43,000, okay, that's the other, that's $43,814.
Second.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
Okay, on the Middletown Avenue, was that emergency?
Yes,
95 Middletown?
yes.
Steve, you're gonna cover the status of Fenwood 1 and 2? Okay, then I'll do that.
John, do you want to see anything?
No, I don't.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. You all set?
Yes.
You all set? Okay, all those in favor of paying the Fenwood 1 invoices signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Okay, Fenwood 2, Olmsted contracted. Can I steal a little bit of your thunder?
Sure.
Before I go into their invoices, I would like to report that Olmsted Contracting has completed Fenwood 2 contract under budget and ahead of schedule. On that note, I'm sorry, yes. You have
That's why there's so
invoices.
many.
Now, there are 5 of them that came in very late today, so they did not get sent off to you, but I thought maybe you'd already gotten enough paper. So I am proposing that I am presenting invoices for Fenwood 2 in the amount of $117,127.61.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I make a motion that we pay Homestead for Fenwick 2 in the amount of $117,127.61.
I'll second.
Which of the 5 invoices we haven't seen?
Oh boy. 55, 57, and 58 Fenwood. 6 Fenwood Place. And probably 10 Fenwood Place. I was explaining that when I put them on the financial report, I put them in address order and
Sure,
then realized that.
Well, you sent out the other invoices previously, which I did review, but I would like the
Yeah,
opportunity
no, so it would be
to take a
50.
look at the 5 that I haven't seen.
Yeah, it should be 55, 57, and 58 Fenwood, and 6 Fenwood Place and 10 Fenwood Place.
No, we got 10 Fenwood Place yesterday.
10, but we didn't get 6.
6 is the missing one?
That was unnecessary.
So there's only 4?
Do 11 of that.
Yeah.
Fenwood Place. 55, 57, I believe 10 Fenwood Place. I think these are the 5 you have not seen.
Well, I got it yesterday, so that's why I asked him.
The only one I was missing was 6,
6?
except for the other, the 50.
Could you pass these down, please?
Sure. The first bunch is the ones that we're missing.
Actually, the check request would be dated 10/13/14. Would be the invoices.
Steve, do you remember what the leaching system was for 6 Fenwood Place? It's a $21,000 total. just bring it up because it's
Yes.
much higher than the others.
Yes, and the reason for that is, it was, I was there several times personally. I spoke with the homeowner who had concerns about, what kind of system was going in, why it needed to be a pump system, as it turned out. It could not be put in as a gravity system, there was just not enough elevation from the groundwater to do that. So once it was determined that that was needed, it got to be more challenging because the lot size was pretty small.
Mhm.
It's also a leaching system for a 4-bedroom house, so it had to meet those requirements as well. I actually saw that property the end of the day today. The system is in and it's been approved, it just hasn't been completely covered and graded yet. But that's done, as it turns out, the homeowner's son is an engineer, so we had conversations with him as well, and made sure that the homeowner and he were satisfied with the design, why it was constructed that way, and the cost of it. And considering what was done, that's a fairly reasonable cost, and that's the only one that's that high on the list.
So is that the only pump system that was installed?
I'm not sure it's the only pump, but,
And what was the leaching field technology?
I don't know exactly, I don't remember what product they put in there. I just know they had, a short distance to groundwater.
Right.
It's right on the edge of marsh.
I noticed there was a pump, it's pump system, but I didn't see a pump tank on the
There's
invoice.
a pump tank there.
On the invoice?
I don't know if it's on the invoice.
It's not broken on any.
Yeah, it might not be, but there's just, I
Usually they break.
I literally saw it.
The leaching from the, so is it included in the leaching, we think? I don't know.
No.
No, it's the cost of the tank.
So leaching
It
was
is
16.
it is the only pump system in.
Is it? Okay.
Yes.
For that area.
Yeah, this thing was what, 4,400 for the tank?
I'm not sure if we have one that's tank only here, just to get an idea.
Which address are you talking about?
6.
6 please.
Yeah.
There's a tank, the distribution, the leaching field,
Yeah,
and
just
there's
a
a
tank.
pump system.
Oh, it does list the pump system.
Just the pump system, but not the tank. Unless it's all
There's-
included, it's
there's-
15.
Unless it's in the
What's
distribution,
in the tank? I mean, what's the tank price?
4,300.
That's his normal charge for tanks.
Yeah.
So he
There
must
is
have it all
no-
buried in the 16,000, 16,000, which is
Unless it's located inside the house.
No.
Just to raise the outlet level up, it's outside.
No, it's outside. I mean, I was there, I saw that.
Just one question on 50 Fenwood. I noticed we don't have a field inspector signature on page 2, under material equipment, but we have a site manager's signature, sign off.
For plumbing?
Yeah, interior plumbing.
What was that address?
50 Fenwood?
Oh, okay.
But he signed off on everything else, so I don't know if it was a page you just happened to miss.
I would guess that that's probably the case because
Yeah.
they're usually very careful about doing that.
Which page are you talking
Would you take it back
Uh,
home?
Certainly.
okay.
about? Well, he signed the other pages.
Yeah, he signed everything else,
So one other question, so we have received, as far as you know, all of the construction invoices from Homestead for Fenwood 2.
Yes, there may be some plumbing forthcoming, but they will be minor in nature and you'll see them on the 27th.
no further comments. All those in favor of paying the Fenwood 2 invoices signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Anything else?
Nope.
Thank you. Okay, Robbie, your report?
Yeah, just a few items. Plus an email. Okay, the next code advisory committee meeting's on October 30th. I was off, so I didn't attend at the 16th. I understand that the technical standards, they're gonna back off a little bit on the ELA credits, so I'll have more information when I attend on 30th to see what they've decided. Let's look at, what we're doing also is for the last 6 areas, we've asked Connecticut Water to give us water usage reports, so we can develop some flow data. So, and they responded really quickly, so they gave me Indian Town already. I sent them Great Hammock Beach. I'm working on the list for Cornfield Point, and then still have Saybrook Manor and Chalker Beach and Plum Bank. So I'm working on that, and Connecticut Water's working on that, and Jim Vanoli's already got the data. Stevens looked at Indian Town as well. So if we have any questions on that, we can go back to that. But it's better than using a public health code formula or a deep formula to have the actual flow data to develop whatever it is you're gonna develop. Plus an O'Neill. Okay, number 2, they said they're 95% done with their field edits. Indian Town is 90% done. The other areas remain to be done. 4 investigation phase, field crews still out there doing GPR and Maple Avenue soil tests. Skip to Ingham Hill, we got the bid book and the plans. I think it was Friday. And Jim Vanoli's made some adjustments to the restorations, and we've incorporated it. And we've done the grass and so on. That's in the bid book. Then if you skip down to the schedule, so the bid book and the plans are in agency review right now. And I guess they're thinking we can go out to bid October 18th, pre-bid meeting, November 6th, bid opening December 2nd, and so forth. Meadowwood 2, I guess it'll be done for agency review by November 12th. And finally, Kurt helped us present at the Maple Avenue North public session on Thursday. I don't know how many people, maybe a couple hundred, could, you know, the travel in pairs.
At least 100.
Yeah, so we still have to mail the rest of them out. And a few apps have come back, 4 apps or so, and we're starting to track. Maple Avenue. And people coming in, they're calling, so there's a lot of contact. That's it.
Any questions for Robbie?
Yeah, good evening. I wasn't able to make the last meeting, so want to back up about a month and clear in on some things that happened for the last month. We've been flat out not only wrapping up phase 1, but also doing preparation work for phase 2 as well. Starting with resident issues, last month there were a few restoration issues with regard to lawns. They were all addressed. We tried to be proactive with regard to Fenwood because we had no time really as a follow-up to what was being done to deal with things. So as the field managers and inspectors looked at the properties in anticipation of work to be done, they alerted me to several issues that might be a problem in the end. And the reason for that is we had some properties that were very technically challenging, and there were issues like trees that were in the way, access to very tight yards, neighbor-to-neighbor issues, soil conditions, and some very well-manicured lots that I wanted to make sure ended up that way at the end. So I spent a fair amount of time in Fenwood because I wanted to make sure that when they were done, they were done. Joe Olmsted should get a lot of credit, as Grace had mentioned, not only for finishing, but he did an excellent job with the systems that he had to put in. And as he went through, he contracted Pat Burke to do the lawn restoration, so Pat was the one following behind that. The systems are all in. He does have details that will be cleaned up this week. Some minor plumbing issues like they followed the construction that took place. But between him and Jeff, who has maybe one or two left, Jeff did some emergencies which take a little bit longer. We really kind of narrowed our concern from getting the construction done to now getting all the paperwork done in the last few weeks. So considering what our challenge was, we've done pretty well in that regard. Going back to the 9th of September, I met with Dennis to go over a number of program issues. And the biggest thing he was concerned about was getting an accounting for phase one. And he wanted us to document our legal requirements to meet the stipulation for phase one. I handed it out, my response in the accounting, because I wasn't sure it was emailed for the last meeting. But what we did in that report, and this is signed by Carl, is break out where all of the 312 properties came from that were remediated. It accounted for a review of 522 properties, which was 28% of the total that we need to look at. So we were a little bit beyond what our requirement was for phase one. And I attached to that, a while later, there's an email back from Betsy Wingfield, the bureau chief, indicating that we have met all our legal obligations for phase one. In addition to that, he asked for the plans for phase two, where we were on different requirements that we needed to address, and he wanted sort of an update on progress with Advanced Street. So I'm in the process of preparing that for him now, and we'll get back to him shortly on that issue. With regard to AT, I went to URI for a course that was a vendor demo. It's set up in their farm, their experimental area, and you can actually see all these systems, and the vendors give an explanation of working systems. It was quite good, quite comprehensive, and you get to see a lot of different technologies, good information for the future. In addition, Dennis and I talked about handling the finances for phase one. At the time, there was the issue of whether the technical standards for the state DPH were going to be upgraded. We talked about that and discussed enforcement issues with him as well. After that, I met with Jim Monopoly, and the things we've been really working on for a whole month are the work that needs to be sort of cooperatively done to make phase one happen by the end of this month. They've gone overboard to cooperate with us, and we've been able to do what we've been able to do because they've turned things around pretty quickly. We do have some issues with regard to the billing, which we're still in discussion with, but I believe will get resolved. Enforcement was another issue that we've gone back and forth on because there's several aspects to it. I tried to come up with sort of an interim letter this month to encourage the few people who have not responded to respond. Wasn't able to do that. We still have, the letter that will go out at the end of October with regard to those few people. And I think, except for Fenwood, I'm down to 3 people prior to that. And one of the reasons is I was able to get approval from DEEP for clean water funds in phase 2 if the people who had not responded agreed to get their work done in phase 2. And I have, that document was reviewed by Matt Manelli. it's complete, and I have 4 people signing up for that. So we're able to take another 4 people out of enforcement. I'm pleased that we could do that. So those things have been ongoing. Robbie and I attended a webinar on the management plan for Long Island Sound. And then we also had a rather lengthy meeting with Kurt Mailman. And the reason for that, and it was a staff meeting, we were all there. The reason for it was really to take a look at the program, where we were, what we needed to do. I got concerned about our plans for phase 2 and the timeframes. And we plan to do about 250 properties with Meadowood, Ingham Hill, and Maple Avenue North. So we went over the time frame for that, realized it was rather complex. I asked him to just get a better handle on the process, to put together kind of a timeline with timeframes for myself, and it takes pretty much a year from when you have a public meeting until when that construction's done. So in realizing that, if we want to do construction next summer, we had to have our Maple Avenue North public hearing last Thursday and get things started. Mainly because the residents have 30 days to respond, and we want to be able to do the follow-up site testing and groundwater testing before the cold weather. So we started on that process. So we went over a number of things with Kurt as well in terms of the program. Because of the complexity of rolling out several contracts, he put together a Gantt chart for us, which kind of maps it. Jim can only have something like that, but it keeps us all kind of framed in terms of where we need to be at different points in time. Kurt was looking also at the upgrade standards for us. We sent him some revisions on lawn restoration to incorporate on the new contracts because of the issues we've been having. So Jim Benoli went through that and came up with some, I think, really good clarifications on what the contractor's responsibilities are, and Fuss and O'Neill is now incorporated. So that was another thing we got accomplished. We've been working on our own upgrade standards. There's a need to clarify a couple of points in there. So we've taken a look at that, and we're in the final stages of doing that. We will need to have a public hearing to finalize that. So that's coming up soon as well.
Is that the ordinance, the change in the ordinance? Or?
The upgrade standards to the ordinance, yeah. I mean, they're really clarifications. I mean, things like specifically stating the volume of the tank, et cetera, you know. It was, we had not only Kurt look at it, but again, Jim Monopoly as the, you know, public health director to make sure that he's kind of more of the final say on what these requirements are. So that's pretty much it. There's been a lot going on at the same time. I think we've done pretty well in terms of phase 1. We're looking forward to having that done. We've really done a lot of preliminary work for phase 2. So once phase 1 is officially behind us and we've met all those obligations, we can start putting all of our energy into that. We are going to have to, you know, get these bids out, go through the process. Ingham Hill and Meadowood, we'd like to be ready to go in March if weather permits, and start that process. And also, you know, we're taking a look at the rest of the system and preparing for future issues as well. All of the mapping, all of the field edits for phase 2 have already been completed, and that's why some of these bills are a little bit higher than you're used to seeing. But we asked Fuss and O'Neill to you know, right now they have to just give us everything they have for phase one. So that's why you're seeing those bills. And that's my report for this one.
Comments or questions?
I just have a question about the 250 properties that you mentioned for phase two. That's the first 250, isn't there 600 properties in phase two? So the first 250, would that be for next year?
Those are conventional properties.
There's 250 conventional properties.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are 250 properties we expect to do conventionally. So that's what that bid process is for. Doesn't mean that's all there is in phase two.
Okay.
But we have some time to address the rest of it. I mean, all of phase one is 312, so.
Yeah, I know. But I was just trying to clarify between
We've already
the
done a lot of
600
preliminary
plus
work.
that were in phase two, and then, what part is the two?
Yeah, the 250 that we're planning to do conventionally actually account for about 300 homes that were reviewed to end up with that number. So that gets added to the 500 change we've already done.
Okay, so
So we're almost halfway there in terms of number of properties.
So the last part of that then is you don't necessarily plan on doing all 250 next year. That's over a period of.
No, we plan to do those by the end of next construction season. It depends on, there are variables in the bid process. We need to get all these bids out so that we can get the construction done.
Okay, so we're gonna be doing, again, we're gonna be skipping AT systems in these areas and engineered systems.
Initially.
Initially is how long?
I can't say because, we haven't planned out that far, but we've had discussions about it and we have to come up with a plan for that. But, this is a lot of construction.
Well, no, I understand that. I'm not saying that it
Yeah,
isn't.
I
All
don't
I'm
know.
saying, all I'm
The
questioning,
short
okay,
answer is
so
I
there
don't
is
know.
I guess the real question is that there is no answer for AT systems. We're not even close to an answer, and there's no answer for engineered systems right now.
Well, I wouldn't characterize it that way. It's something we're working on. There just isn't a final plan for it. But it is part of what the state is looking for in phase two. And we need to give them some sort of explanation. But, there've just been other priorities in terms of phase one work and getting the conventional work plan for phase two. So we're almost there in terms of addressing it. But we haven't even started phase two yet.
No,
We have a little.
gotta put a shovel in the
Maybe
ground
we have,
someday.
maybe we have a month, I don't know. It's non-stop.
I just want to make one comment. I would like to commend yourself and the staff for doing a terrific job on Fenwick 1 and 2, keeping contractors focused and getting all these properties done in a very timely fashion.
On schedule.
Yeah, thank you. Staff worked hard on it. Very hard.
I have a question.
Yes.
On lawn restoration. We've had perhaps a handful of residents going back to the beginning of Saybrook Acres who've not been completely satisfied with, the way the lawns have come in. And this being prime time right now, where are we with that effort?
We've met all of our obligations in terms of what we're supposed to do. At some point, the lawns take 3 years, as Pat pointed out. It's a homeowner responsibility to maintain that. It's a living organism. So what happens depends on, a lot of different things. What care they give to it, weather conditions, et cetera. So we're not indefinitely obligated to maintain those lawns.
Right, I understand we're not there with the garden hose watering it, that kind of thing, but you know, we've had some properties that have had stuff coming up in the lawn. You know, was that brought in, was it pre-existing, who knows, but hopefully we've made some kind of effort.
No, we have. I think Joe especially has gone out of his way to do things he was not obligated to do, to go back and reseed, sometimes 3 times for people,
Yeah.
which was way beyond what the requirement was. It was a very dry summer too, that didn't help for a period of time. We had, fortunately, actually, when Joe started in Fenwood, it had been extremely dry for a
Right.
long
My
time. Then
point
we had
is
some
that-
rain, so those lawns that are getting put in got a good start.
We're, you know, we're prime time, I would think, for, or coming to the end of prime time for, you know, trying to get lawns
Mhm.
that maybe had been problematic, a startup on next year.
Well, I mean, you know, as Gracia pointed out, the one we thought we needed to do, we did, filled it in. There's another one I remember that we went back and reseeded again. You know, if we could do something, we've done it, and we've gone beyond, I think, what any of our obligations
All right.
are. If there's some people who still aren't satisfied, that's very possible. But it's not because
But
we
you-
didn't do what we were supposed to do.
I think you've given me the answer I'm looking for, that we've gone over and above what is necessary.
We have.
Okay.
Thank you. I don't see any old business. New business?
Oh, question on old business?
Yes.
What is the status of East Point incentive development? They came before the board a couple meetings ago.
I haven't heard anything. I can find out how it's going with zoning. I'll get an update and I'll let you know.
I don't think there's any new business. No? All right, we'll open for public comment, if anyone cares to make comment.
A couple of questions. I think it's been, what, a couple of years since some of these systems have been in. Has there any soil samples been taken to see if this process is actually working? Out in, I'm assuming that we're polluting the sound, or out in the marshes and whatnot. That's how they came to this conclusion that we needed to do this in the first place. And I guess my concern is, if there's no change in those tests, we're moving forward really fast. Obviously, you guys got a plan and you're working hard to do it, but is it working? Are we doing something that's not gonna work, and we're spending a lot of town money and homeowner money for not? I know the state says that we need to do this, but is it working? I would think that would be kind of an important thing that somebody would be doing. I would assume it would be the state, not you guys, but has the state contacted you to find out, give you a pat on the back and say it's working, good work, good job, or?
No, I'm not aware of any.
Does that sound unreasonable to anybody up here, that we would kind of want to see if it's working before we spend?
Well, we're not done.
The systems are being installed in accordance with DPH standards. And that's the important piece, that they're done correctly. The systems we have seen, Steve, you can probably talk to this, the
Yeah.
systems that were taken out, because a lot of people raised those questions initially and said, well, my system isn't polluting. And then when the system comes out of the ground and it's septic system sitting in groundwater, it's hard to argue that you are not polluting at that point.
Right. But
All
they
those
must have been
things
taking these,
remediated.
where were they taking these readings? Were they taking the readings out the marsh and near the water, or where, do you know
That I
where they
don't
were
know.
taken?
Yeah.
Could you guys request that they take some more tests just to
Yeah,
find
no,
out
I mean,
if it's
you
working?
put-
That could be a double-edged sword. It could be if it's not working, I guess the thing is we're moving really fast, and it's costing the town a lot of money, it's costing homeowners an awful lot of money as well. So if it's not working, or we get all done, or we get, even farther than this, and the state goes, no, it's not working, then what? I guess.
Yeah, no, I don't think that would be the case. I mean, you bring up a good point. You know, initially, this was done for purposes of removing nitrogen from the groundwater, and it was either the sewers and a plant or decentralized approach.
Right.
And so the decentralized approach was designed to remove the same level of nitrogen from the groundwater that sewers in a plant would do. And that's the reason for the upgrade standards being tightened up.
No, I understand that, but I think that.
But the construction's in progress, they haven't done any, that I know about, any subsequent testing yet to determine, you know, what the difference is. But, you know, as Ian pointed out, I mean, we've done hundreds of these now, and we know they're failing. We can see them when we take them up, or the dry wells are sitting in.
Oh, no, I
So there's no question about there
Oh, there's
being
no
an
question that
improvement.
that the systems are working. I mean,
Well,
I mean, not all of them,
but-
obviously, some of them are.
Has that
not.
been measured to this point? No.
But I mean, ultimately, that was their goal, right?
Mhm.
To make sure that we weren't polluting the sound.
Yes.
So I mean, I guess the way that I'm looking at the map and it's segmented out in different areas, I would think that they could go out now and take these tests. And if there's no difference or no measurable difference, my fear is that the state down the road, I mean, you can do everything you want according to standard, and I'm not arguing, I'm just bringing up the point, but if we do everything to whatever standards are set, and it still hasn't worked, the state's not gonna allow that, they're gonna make us put in a central sewer system that they know is gonna work.
Yeah. They said in public hearings they were not gonna come back after us.
Yeah,
They said it in public, we have it. in
Yeah,
the
this
city.
is a solution.
This is, you know, you're making some big assumptions, and I don't think we have the answers until.
Well, even in communities where they install the sewer lines, they don't go back and test.
Well, they wouldn't have any reason to test at that point, because then everything's being hard piped out. We're still putting it into the ground more or less. But anyway, I mean, it just seems to make common sense that if that's what the whole reason for this was originally, that if it's not working, that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's designed to work. We're putting in systems that have to meet the requirements to not allow that pollution to reach the groundwater.
Yeah, and there's more of a component to pollution than just the septic system.
Oh, yeah, I mean, there's other factors as well, too. So, I mean, monitoring that would be very tricky.
Okay.
There's a tremendous amount of pollution in stormwater, which is totally
Exactly.
unregulated
Yeah.
at this point.
Right. Next question was soft costs. First off, how are the soft costs broken down? Are they broken down equally among each homeowner, or are they assessed by how many hours are put in, or how is that broken down?
You mean as far as allocating to individual homeowners?
In other words, when they finally get their bill in phase one, is that gonna be an equal bill for each person? So if it's, you know, $2,000 per home, or is that gonna be, well, it's only $1,500 for you and $3,500 for this property? And the reason I ask that is because I'm in phase two, and I know that phase one has not received their bills yet. And I know you mentioned you're on a timetable, and we have 30 days to say, we're on board or we're not. On board for what? I mean, at least if we had the phase one bills to look at, we could make an assumption as a homeowner whether we want to be involved or not. And I realize it's a complicated process to come up with these numbers, but on the other hand, it almost seems to me, and I'm not asking you to turn the world upside down, it would be easier for people, obviously, if you went out and dug the test hole, you got a general idea where your water table is, what your soil content is, and how big your lot is going to tell you a little bit about what's involved. Now, what's the difference with a conventional system? I mentioned you guys were talking about 250 conventional systems. Now, what does that mean? They're fairly straightforward?
Yeah, it's a typical system where you have adequate soil conditions and site conditions for gravity flow.
So therein lies my question, is that I would like to know, my personal property, is that a conventional system? That's gonna tell me right off the bat whether, give me a little indication on what the cost factor is gonna be. If we can do a conventional system, my assumption is that it's gonna be less. If it's gonna be a complicated system, then I might wanna go for financing, because maybe it's more than I wanna spend initially out of pocket. And I think, to ask people to either sign on or sign off in 30 days is unreasonable from a homeowner's perspective. I mean, this is money out of our pockets. This is financing, this is, any way we look at it, I mean, we have to do this. I'm not arguing that point at all, I mean, the battle's been fought, it's lost, we gotta do it. But from a financial standpoint, I think you really, I have to be honest with you, I think that's where most of the flack with this whole thing has come from, the soft costs, is the fact that nobody really knows and they still don't know. So I don't know if you can give me any kind of an answer, if there's a way to do this, or what I would really like to see. You had mentioned in our meeting on Thursday that you would have those numbers together by the 31st of October. These bills would be available for people to look at. I would propose for you people to vote yes or no.
Well,
I would like to wait. I know you're on a schedule, but the thing is, this is my money. And I think you guys have an obligation to let us have 30 days after those numbers come out. I think it'd be helpful for everybody to make a decision on whether they want it in or out.
Okay, a couple of comments, because you've raised a lot of questions. The reason for the time frame, as I reported to the board tonight, is there's clean water funds come with a whole set of regulations. These are all the steps that we have to go through, starting with a public meeting. There's site investigations after that. That data goes to our consulting engineers. They have to review it, put a bid together. It goes to the state for review. Comes back, we have to have a pre-bid meeting. The contractors have a certain time frame in order to review. They have to walk these properties. They have to come back with approximate costs so that you would know what is required. And if we didn't have some time frames on this would never get done. So in general, that's the reason for assigning a time frame to each of these steps. The decision about clean water funding is you do get 50% of your system covered if you opt for it. So that's a huge savings up front.
No, I'm not arguing
In terms
that,
of
but it's
making a financial decision.
But if we don't know what
If
the
you're
soft
worried,
costs are,
if
we
you're worried
don't
about
know.
the soft costs, what do you think the soft costs are gonna be? Double that? They're not.
I have no idea. That's the problem. I mean, nobody does. And I'm
Yeah.
not trying to nail you down on a number, because I know you don't, you're gonna wait until the numbers are out. And I think that's fair enough. But I would like to know before I have to make a decision. I understand you're under schedule, but I mean, it's very complex what you guys are trying to accomplish, and I understand that. But I think if I came to any one of you people and said, here, you wanna sign up? Well, how much does it cost? Well, we're not sure yet. I mean, give me a break. I'm an electrician. I come to your house. If I was to say to you, I'm gonna give you a great deal, and you say, how much is it? Well, don't worry about it. I'll take care of you. I mean, nobody has a clue as a number. I mean, any one of you would laugh at me if I came to your house and said that. Well, I'm on a schedule, so you're gonna have to go with it now or not. I mean, realistically, you have to look at it from the homeowner perspective. I know you guys got a big load on your shoulders there, but I mean, it's really kind of unfair to the homeowners. I mean, I mean, we're gonna have to pay one way or the other, but at least it's nice to know what we're getting into. I guess the soft costs, are they spread out equally or among each property owner? Because if I have a conventional system, am I gonna be paying for people who have a harder system that's in phase 2?
It isn't, well, the costs aren't appropriated that way. There's categories for them, and it's complex to try to assign it.
I mean, that would be helpful in itself if you had an A, B, or C or whatever, and you could just kind of.
Yeah.
And I realize there's soil content, it depends on what's there and how much you're gonna have to worry. I understand that, it's not cut and dry.
Well, this also isn't something that just we decide. This has been an issue because there's town funds involved. There's also funds that have been expended for everybody in the system, even though they haven't had any construction. And my understanding at this point is that the administration plans to, that is the Board of Selectmen, put in the next budget for next year funds to cover those costs. Well,
Well, therein lies another question that I have. if these numbers come out in the end of October and they hit the papers, and,
You know, you don't understand what I just said to you.
yes, I do. Because what I'm concerned about, and this is the question, if the residents of the town see that they're gonna be taxed heavy on the cost of this, more so than they thought, because the town was gonna cover, what, 25%, clean water funds was 25% and we're 50. So if all of a sudden, they say, well, that's not working out, we're gonna end up having to pay a lot more, can there be a referendum and more costs be put onto the soft cost for the individual homeowners?
The answer is, I don't know, and I just know that that's what the administration has proposed, and frankly, the WPCA board can still assign some management costs if they so choose, apart from that recommendation. So the issue hasn't been completely decided yet. That's the proposal at this point.
That's a good answer for me, I appreciate it.
I mean, I think it's very fair, I think it's very reasonable, I don't think any of this is excessive for any segment of the population in town. This is basic infrastructure and it's a community obligation,
No, I
and
understand.
everybody benefits from this.
Oh, no, I agree 100%, I just don't, I'm worried about once the soft cost bill comes out, can it be added to later? If the town decides that they're unhappy with that? I mean, the other voters have a say in this too, I would imagine, and they can say, no, we're not gonna go for that. We decided we were gonna pay 25%, and you're asking us for 40%. Or they could come back and say no, and then what? I mean, there is the possibility that they could push that back to the homeowners who are involved with this funding process.
Well, those are
That's my concern. I mean, I don't want,
Those are issues to be resolved.
I guess what it is I'm making a decision based on a whole bunch of
You can
variables that nobody
You
knows.
can self-fund and you know exactly what you're gonna spend.
Well, I know, but that's, I guess the thing is it's a nice deal to get 50%, but that's what I'm saying. The other side of it, there's a lot of variables that could backfire, that's all. And nobody really knows, so. All right, well, that's the answer.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, good morning, Robert Hughes, or good evening,
Good
I
evening.
should say. Good morning, I just came back from California, so excuse me. Still not morning. To tag on here, the advanced treatment systems are not yet even conceived. Will the costs of the engineering, installation, maintenance, operations of those systems be included into my soft cost? Or will they be held out to the end of the process and then somehow allocated back into everyone? So even though people in phase one get a third bill for their portion of the, how is that going to work for the, those systems that we're not yet addressing even in phase one?
Well, it doesn't work in terms of exact systems, it's costs that are expended for the program to that point. So the cost that, I mean, we had soft costs to, with regard to AT in phase one, we'll have cost regard to AT in phase two and all the other phases. So whatever those costs are for each phase, that's what it will be.
Okay, we haven't
It's not-
installed any AT
It's not
systems yet.
specifically, you know, one system and it gets built that way.
Okay, so,
It would,
but
it
you
would
just.
be like, you know what it would be like if you said, I don't use the pool in town, you gotta take that out of my taxes, or I don't use the library, or I don't do this. It's a broader approach to it.
Maybe I didn't word my question correctly.
Well, I heard you ask the question, that would the operating costs be spread to the town? And I don't think that would be correct. The operating cost of an AT system is the homeowner's responsibility.
Correct.
That would not come back to the general town tax roll.
Even community systems that they're gonna be allocated to the 4 or 5 houses or however many that are in there? And somebody has to design that
I would just say
system.
that since we don't have a plan for the rest of it, we really can't answer
Yeah.
that question.
I'll amend that answer.
Okay.
We don't have enough information at this point. but-
Understood.
But just,
How much data are available on the systems that have been installed? You mentioned the other night, 312 that have been installed. Are those invoices available to us in some sort of easily discernible, manipulable way? That, is there a database of costs so that we can get an
Yes.
approximate number for those conventional systems? The ones
Yes,
that have been, that's available?
yes.
Do we see you? Is it online somewhere?
You would see me.
Okay.
But the benefit assessments are out, so you can, that's public information.
Right, but that's not broken down. That just says home A is 8,000, home B is 12,000. But I'm more interested in when the contractor comes to my house and he says, your system's going to be $10,000 and it's made up of this, this, and this. I assume I'll get something like that.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way that I can compare it to a
I-
private company.
Well,
I
you have to be careful because every bid contract is a little different. It's just the nature of how it's done. So if your system was exactly the same as somebody else's in a different contract, it could vary somewhat in price.
Well, yeah,
I can-
understood.
I can give you averages.
Mhm.
And my averages are broken down by conventional tank and leaching, tank only, leaching only, emergency systems, and pump systems that are non-emergency. And those are the categories, and I can give you the number of properties in each contract and the average cost in each contract, and then the average cost for the total. That's how the spreadsheet is set up.
But that's not broken down into, the engineering costs, the equipment,
No, this is
materials,
hard,
installations.
this
it's
is
just-
hard construction costs only.
And lumped all together.
The benefit assessment is on the website,
Yes,
right, which is basically 50% of the construction cost.
Okay, you're missing my point. When I call a contractor in, he's gonna say, I will do this, and he's gonna break it down. Your tank's gonna cost
Right.
$3,000. And I need to be able to say, but that's way more than a tank should cost, or
Okay,
that.
okay, let me
I
just,
don't-
let me give you an example. In Fenwood, there's two separate contracts, okay? One contractor billed the septic tank at around 2,000, 2,500. And the next contractor billed that same, because he bid it that way, that same septic tank for about 4,500, 5,000. So that's where you can run into a little bit of a problem because of the way that they are bid, and the contractor can bid it any way that he wants as long as his total price is less than someone else's. But that's what happens, and that happens a lot.
and there's a list, there is a project manual, construction guideline that tells the contractor exactly what items need to be included within the category that's called tank or the category that's called bleaching. And our contracts include all the way to lawn restoration.
So there are line items in his.
And
in his
there
bid.
are multiple line items, and they each have, and the project manual's this thick.
And you have all
So,
that in your office, I can tell.
yes, we do.
Thank you.
You were at the meeting, public meeting Thursday night, yeah. I don't know if you remember that I said we did 200 of these tank and leaching conventional systems for an average of $11,000, which is a very reasonable cost. I mean, they can vary contract to contract. But if you think about comparing Clean Water Fund versus private contractor, the key thing is to know that they're quoting the same system, basically. And, you know, there's no way that even if somebody saves you a little bit here, a little bit there, that they can come up with 50% difference.
Well, you're presuming that.
No, it hasn't happened. It's just, you can't do the same thing and put the same system in for half the cost. That just isn't reasonable.
Understood. Thank you.
Anyone else? More?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment on what you were saying, but on the soft costs. Originally, we were assessed soft costs back in February 2012, so it's been 18 months. Those soft costs we were originally assessed with did not go through. There was quite a bit of negative feedback on it. And the board's been wrestling with this for 18 months now, because, for two reasons. One, when the run up to the referendum, the town was told that the town of Old Saybrook would pick up the soft costs. All we were going to be responsible for was design and construction on our lot-specific systems. The town would pick up other costs. That changed. I won't go into how it got changed, but it got changed. Now, it's a question of, or additionally, it's a question of, there is no equitable way to divide these soft costs up. You can't charge somebody that's got a $1,500 tank the same as somebody that's got a pump system for $15,000. It doesn't make any sense. And these costs, the soft costs, have not been kept track on a cost accounting basis. In other words, nobody said, worker A has spent 15 hours on property X or anything like that. So there's no way to really define this stuff. And I think what Steve said earlier, and the indication is now that the soft cost to date, from the beginning of the program up through the completion of phase 1, I guess, it looks as if the town has reasoned that it will be put into the budget, in the general fund, which I think is the only way to go on it. It is what the town voted on, too. When that referendum came out, everybody was under the impression that these soft costs will get spread through the entire town. And the entire town is benefiting because we don't have a town-wide sewer system. So everybody does benefit from this. As far as future costs, and ongoing, I don't know how that's going to work out. I would hope that once this is decided that the soft costs will be into the general fund, then that's going to be it, except for if you've got a system that requires ongoing maintenance. That's the homeowner's situation. But I just hope we're not in for any surprises down the road after we think we're at a good point here. I just hope that we can stay the course. Anyway, we've been at this for 18 months, a few of us here, trying to figure out what's going on and putting our 2 cents worth into these meetings.
Thank you, Barry. Anyone else?
Couple more cents. Rick Keel from Marcia Conway. Also, the driveway's still not fixed. You designated an area that was broken. You said it was done by the contractors. It has not been fixed. I was here a month ago, I asked for status. Here I am again. We're held at ransom not knowing these soft costs, okay? We don't know. Mr. Mongilla holds up a piece of paper to you, taunting you about timeframes. Really, folks? Get your soft costs act together. We need to know. If everybody, like Bud, didn't know and opted out, your program would go down. Time frame, sir. We're held at ransom, the driveway's not fixed. There's a big picture and there's a little picture for every property. Thank you.
I'm going to close the comment period at this time. And would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.